They say it's normal to be mean to your crush, but Akitiru never believed that theory. These thoughts fill Akitiru's mind as he enters the dorm, but before he can even reach his room, a loud noise echoes from inside. Standing outside, he shakes in irritation, taking a deep breath to keep himself composed. Inside is none other than Iroha singing her heart out. She sprawled comfortably, humming and belting out the lyrics to a song, which only fuels Akitiru's growing frustration. Then Akitiru finally snaps. He storms into his room and yanks the power cord from the outlet, cutting off the music instantly. Iroha turns around, completely unfazed, and greets him cheerfully before lecturing him about how rude it is to barge into someone's room uninvited. Her smugness only irritates him further, as this is his room and she's the one trespassing. He tells her to keep her volume down before she disturbs the other residents and points to her headphones as a hint. Instead of complying, Iroha teases him maliciously, implying that he wants to touch her. Akitiru shuts her down coldly, stating he has no interest in her antics. Her non-stop chatter only makes him feel sick. Then Iroha accuses him of trying to catch her while changing, even joking that she'll call the police. In reality, Akitiru is the one who should be calling them because she broke into his room after all. He considers it for a moment but realizes that no one would believe him over her. She plays the victim too well. Iroha loves asserting her dominance over Akitiru. At one point, she even lies flat on his bed, deliberately emphasizing her chest. Akitiru looks away immediately, but she has hidden the dorm key between her chest. It's true he gave her the key, but that doesn't mean she can just walk in whenever she pleases. She pushes further, teasing that once he drives her away, he'll end up fantasizing about her. This finally makes Akitiru snap, so he grabs a spray bottle and splashes water on her face. They launch into another argument. Iroha insists that she's basically like his little sister since she's his friend's sibling, but Akitiru rejects that notion entirely, calling her a stranger. She continues to press his buttons, teasing him at every opportunity. Just then, Akitiru's phone rings. It's his uncle. He glares at Iroha, warning her not to mess around because his future depends on this call. She reluctantly promises to behave. His uncle, Makoto, is the president of HPW, a major entertainment company. Makoto calls to talk about Akitiru's bold application to the company without taking the proper exam. He isn't exactly impressed by the move, but since Akitiru is his nephew, he's willing to make it work under certain conditions. His tone suddenly turns serious as he asks Akitiru if he has a girlfriend, catching both Akitiru and Iroha completely off guard. Immediately, Iroha's eyes light up with mischief, clearly coming up with a scheme. Akitiru notices this and warns her to stop whatever she's plotting, but she ignores him. Instead, she moves closer and starts making strange noises, ensuring Makoto hears her presence on the call. Panicking, Akitiru quickly lies and says it's just a cat he adopted. Unfortunately for him, when Makoto casually asks questions about the cat, Akitiru can't answer any of them, making the situation even more suspicious. Iroha doesn't back down and continues to push Akitiru further, making him mutter curses under his breath and confusing Makoto. Desperate to keep up his lie, Akitiru pretends that the cat is attacking him to make the situation sound believable. Eventually, Makoto starts to piece things together and assumes Akitiru has a girlfriend. Panicked, Akitiru quickly denies it and struggles to shove Iroha away. Fortunately, Makoto seems pleased to hear he doesn't have a girlfriend and tells him he'll explain the details of his application soon. After their conversation, Iroha rolls around on Akitiru's bed, complaining that she's thirsty. With a sigh, Akitiru tells her to get herself a drink, and she cheerfully skips off, leaving him frustrated. The next day, during his vacant period, Akitiru spends his time writing in his notebook, reflecting on life and death and his vow to use every minute to secure a better future. As the subject ends, Akitiru's best friend, Ozuma, slumps into his chair, exhausted. Luckily, Akitiru took notes for him, and Ozuma gratefully thanks him. To return the favor, Ozuma invites Akitiru to have some enmitsu after class. Akitiru is always amazed by how great Ozuma is as a person, but Ozuma turns the compliment back at him. He points out that Akitiru has a genuinely good heart, and that's what makes him who he is. Even though Akitiru insists that everything he does is calculated, Ozuma admires how he always thinks of others too, including him and his sister Iroha. Ozuma casually assumes that Iroha barged into Akitiru's place again, and when Akitiru confirms it, Ozuma teases that maybe she has a crush on him. Akitiru disagrees, believing Iroha just likes to mess around. Ozuma argues that it could be her way of showing affection, but Akitiru stands firm in his belief, and if she truly liked him, there'd be no reason to torment him so much. Before their conversation can go further, a fiery teacher enters the room, warning the students not to waste her time. Everyone quickly rises from their slouched positions, and just like that, homeroom begins. After class ends, a classmate rushes up to Akitiru, telling him that a cute first-year girl is looking for him. Sure enough, Iroha is waiting by the door. When confronted, she tries to act sweet and composed, but Akitiru bluntly tells her to drop the act. Instead of backing down, Iroha pretends not to understand and continues to act wholesome in front of everyone, making Akiteru look like the bad guy. She invites him to walk home together, but when Akiteru turns to grab his things, she adds that she wants to be alone with him, excluding Ozuma. This startles Akiteru, and he reacts loudly. Iroha seizes the moment, acting cute and declaring they're a couple. The entire class gasps, including Akiteru, but she doesn't stop. She dramatically sheds fake tears, fully committing to her act and leaving Akiteru flustered. Ozuma suddenly arrives, curious about what's going on. Iroha immediately tells him that she and Akiteru are going out alone, which makes Akiteru panic even more. He quickly grabs her by the hand and drags her away for a serious talk. Face to face, Iroha keeps insisting that they're together, even though it's obviously not true. She reveals her motive came from the earlier phone call, as she figured he might need a girlfriend to impress his uncle. She smugly declares that she's out of his league, so it's basically his win. But Akiteru isn't amused at all. He sternly tells her not to interfere because his future is at stake. Before he can walk away, Iroha suddenly hugs him from behind. She teases him to notice her, saying the future doesn't matter and what matters is the present. With tears in her eyes, she admits she cares about him deeply and just wants them to stay close forever. For a moment, Akiteru is taken aback, thinking she's being sincere. His guard softens, but just as he's about to believe her, Iroha breaks into a mischievous laugh, revealing it was all an act. She teases him for falling for her act and even jokes about how much she wanted to confess like that. Akiteru is too flustered to respond, his face heating up as she notices his red ears and assumes he's embarrassed. He bursts out in anger, declaring that he'll never believe anything she says ever again. Enraged, Akiteru chases after Iroha down the stairs, but she escapes before he can catch her. Later, he meets his uncle Makoto at a cafe to discuss his application to HPW. Makoto mentions that someone else will be joining them but wants to talk to Akiteru privately first. He brings up the fact that Akiteru has already released a game. Akiteru clarifies that it was a team effort with 5 members in total, Ozuma as the programmer and Akiteru serving as both producer and director. Together with 3 other members, they formed the Fifth Floor Alliance. He admits that the game's success wouldn't have been possible without his team. Makoto notes that the industry has already started talking about their sudden rise, acknowledging their impressive accomplishment. He admits that even he couldn't have done something like that when he was in school, so Akiteru deserves the popularity. Before diving deeper into the topic, Makoto encourages Akiteru to order something first. Akiteru assumes the person joining them might be a manager or representative, so he brings his proposal, ready to make a good impression. As Makoto gives their order, he casually flirts with the waitress, even asking her out for dinner despite her clearly being at work. Akiteru is shocked by his uncle's boldness and calls him out, but Makoto confidently says he knows how to leave a lasting impression on girls, and seeing the waitress's expression confirms it. Flustered, Akiteru excuses himself to the bathroom to calm down. He closes his eyes to forget what he just saw, so he fails to notice the sign saying the lock is broken. He opens the door without thinking and accidentally walks in on Mashiro, who's still sitting on the toilet. Before he can react, Mashiro punches him in embarrassment. Meanwhile, at Akiteru's office, Iroha is bored since he's not around to mess with. A colleague asks her about their relationship, but she firmly says there's nothing going on. Back at the cafe, Akiteru discovers that Mashiro is actually the other person his uncle invited. She's his cousin, Makoto's daughter, and they used to play together as kids, though he didn't recognize her at all now that they're grown up. Makoto then reveals his plan. He wants Akiteru to act as Mashiro's fake boyfriend in exchange for pushing through his application to HPW, leaving Akiteru completely stunned. Mashiro finds the idea ridiculous, but Makoto is completely serious. He explains that he's worried about her transferring from an all-girls school to a co-ed one, so he wants someone to watch over her. Despite his reasoning, Mashiro firmly rejects his plan. Curious, Akiteru asks why she needs to transfer, but Mashiro refuses to let him know, prompting Makoto to hold back the full story. The only detail Makoto reveals is that Mashiro barely attended high school and she's been a truant. Surprisingly, Akiteru doesn't pry in further. For him, that single fact is enough to understand their concern, and he doesn't dwell on her past. Since the condition is tied to his team's employment at HPW, Akiteru decides to accept the arrangement. Mashiro, though clearly reluctant, eventually agrees as well, under the strict condition that their relationship will remain entirely fake. With the deal sealed, Akiteru extends his hand to Mashiro, but she refuses to shake it, still holding a grudge over their awkward bathroom encounter. Watching the exchange, Makoto smiles, convinced they'll get along, though both of them strongly disagree. But before leaving, Makoto reminds Akiteru that as Mashiro's fake boyfriend, any real romantic moves are strictly forbidden. Akiteru doesn't see this as a problem, considering Mashiro clearly dislikes him anyway. Reflecting on everything, he still can't understand why people say being mean to someone means they are romantically interested. He's surrounded by aggressive girls after all. Nonetheless, his fake boyfriend job starts tomorrow. The next day, Akitiru is greeted by Irova, who immediately senses that something's off. She tries to pry, guessing that his mood has something to do with the meeting. He refuses to tell her, but she remains persistent and follows him. Neither of them notices Sumire leading Mashiro around. Once classes begin, Mashiro is asked to introduce herself to Akitiru's class. Out of nervousness, she blurts out that she's also dating Akitiru. The class erupts with whispers, wondering why someone like her would waste her looks on a nobody like him. Suzuki, one of the boys, asks how they met, and Mashiro accidentally says they met in the bathroom. Akitiru inwardly panics, realizing how bad that makes him look. When Mashiro takes the seat next to him, he tries to act friendly, but she immediately turns cold, reminding him that she hasn't forgiven him. Akitiru tries to reason with her, saying they both need to act friendly if their story is to be believable. Mashiro disagrees, insisting that as long as their stories line up, there's no need for them to be close. Ozuma taps Akitiru on the shoulder, asking why he never mentioned having a girlfriend. Akitiru apologizes for keeping secrets but hints that he and Mashiro aren't actually dating. During lunch, Akitiru explains his situation with Mashiro in detail. Ozuma teases him, saying his life sounds like a romantic comedy. Akitiru counters that Ozuma would make a better protagonist, given his personality and the fact that he has a little sister, though Iroha's personality doesn't exactly fit the trope. Ozuma says it's because Iroha already loves Akitiru. Akitiru flatly denies the idea, but Ozuma just smiles and excuses himself to buy lunch. Suzuki approaches Akitiru, asking how he managed to get a girlfriend when everyone thought he was already dating Iroha. Feeling Mashiro's icy glare, Akitiru quickly clarifies that Iroha is Ozuma's little sister, then changes the topic to Suzuki's crush on their teacher, who's rumored to like macho guys. Hearing that, Suzuki gets fired up and storms out of the classroom. Akitiru, still feeling Mashiro's cold stare, sighs and asks if she has a problem. Mashiro demands that Akitiru bring her rice balls filled with seafood, declaring that since they're dating, it's his duty to serve her. She even threatens that if he refuses, she'll call off their fake relationship. Reluctantly, Akitiru does as he's told and returns with 2 rice balls and a drink for her. He sits back down and quietly eats a piece of bread he bought for himself. He briefly wonders if she might be jealous after overhearing his conversation about Iroha, but dismisses the thought since Mashiro clearly hates him. Classes resume as Sumire steps to the front of the room, asking the students if they've all completed their homework. One boy raises his hand and admits that he forgot, prompting Sumire's anger. She launches into a lecture about responsibility, warning them that without discipline, they're nothing more than scum. The student tries to explain himself, but Sumire cuts him off, though she eventually lets it slide on the condition that he promises to do better. Akitiru glances at Mashiro and notices how intently she's watching Sumire. He notes that Sumire might not be the ideal homeroom teacher for a transfer student. When class ends, Sumire pauses at the door to call out Akitiru. She instructs him to meet her in the counseling room to discuss an assignment. Akitiru calmly agrees, but as soon as Sumire leaves, several boys approach him in concern, wondering how he can stay so composed when everyone knows how terrifying she is. He simply replies that she's not going to kill him, then heads for the counseling room. When he arrives, he's signaled to enter, only to be greeted by the sight of a torture chamber. He takes a seat at the center, and almost instantly, Sumire's demeanor changes. She bows to the ground, nervously asking for his forgiveness. Akitiru's attitude shifts as well. He suddenly seems far more confident than before. Sumire stammers through excuses about being overwhelmed with lesson plans and teaching duties. Akitiru pulls out his phone and shows her the notifications he received about her online activity, revealing that she's been doing other things instead of working. Sumire's teaching identity is Shibuku Murasaki. In class, she's feared as the strict, venomous queen, but to Akitiru and the rest of the Fifth Avenue Alliance, she's simply Sumire, their illustrator who always struggles to meet her deadlines. Akitiru points out Sumire's harsh words in class earlier, which visibly hurt her pride. She explains that her strict teacher persona isn't who she really is, since it's all just part of the act she plays in front of her students. Sighing, Akitiru decides to change the subject and asks about her progress so far. Sumire grows nervous and shows him her tablet, revealing a completely blank page. Irritated, Akitiru tries to throw her into one of the torture machines, then tugs on her ponytail as she struggles to get away. Sumire insists that she's suffering from artist block. Letting go of her hair, Akitiru sighs and tells her she should come to him if she was having trouble. Sumire protests, saying that doing so would ruin her cool image. Clearly losing patience, Akitiru presses a few pressure points on her shoulder in frustration. Once he releases her, he mutters that he never imagined Sumire could be so hopeless. He recalls the first time they met. He was scouting for potential illustrators at a manga convention but hadn't found anyone. Just as he was about to give up, he noticed a comic depicting a taboo romance. The artwork was so detailed that it immediately caught his attention. When he approached the artist to ask if she'd join his project, she turned around, and to his shock, he realized it was his homeroom teacher. That was when Akiteru decided to use what he knew about her secret to keep her working for him. Sumire still wishes that the encounter had happened differently, as it gave Akiteru the leverage to control her reputation as a reliable teacher. Akiteru tells her it's her own fault, and now that she's part of his team, she'd better start making drafts for the game. Sumire groans that she still can't draw because of her artist block. Akiteru suggests that they just sleep on it, but Sumire misunderstands and blurts out that she doesn't like boys 15 years and older. Akiteru scolds her for even thinking that way and tells her to eat something to get her blood flowing so she can focus on work. He also grants her a half-day extension, which immediately lifts her mood. Before he leaves, Sumire asks about his real relationship with Mashiro. Akiteru admits that it's a fake relationship he accepted to help them gain support from his uncle's company. Sumire then reveals that the school has special instructions on how to handle Mashiro's case. Akiteru immediately guesses that it's because she's a shut-in. Akiteru admits that that's all he knows, so Sumire explains that Mashiro was bullied at her previous school. Some of her classmates had discovered a secret she was keeping and used it to hold power over her. Sumire admits she doesn't know what the secret is, but she asks Akiteru to help make Mashiro's school life as comfortable as possible. She says she wants Mashiro to genuinely enjoy her time here, and she's confident Akiteru can make that happen. Akiteru brushes off the praise, but Sumire insists he should take the compliment, reminding him that both she and Ozuma are also grateful for the impact he's had on their lives. Flatly, Akiteru tells her that flattery won't earn her another deadline extension. Afterward, Akiteru returns to the classroom and asks Mashiro if she'd like to walk home together. Mashiro, however, coldly tells him to stay away from her. Whispers spread quickly, with some teasing that Mashiro must be at tsundere, and that the two of them act like a married couple. Hearing the comments, Mashiro grows flustered and bolts from the room. Akiteru watches her leave, wondering why she acts so cold toward him. Ozuma, noticing his expression, remarks that he doesn't think Mashiro is a bad person at all. Akiteru agrees but says she should at least let him get close enough to protect her. He asks Ozuma for advice, but Ozuma admits that Akiteru has a tough case, given that Mashiro already views him negatively. Alone in the shoe locker area, Akiteru suddenly feels a pair of arms wrapped tightly around him from behind. A familiar, irritating voice follows, and he immediately recognizes it as Iroha. He asks her to get off, but she insists that she's simply showing him kindness by keeping him company. Pressing herself closer, Iroha teases that if he really wants her to let go, the softness he's feeling will disappear. It's only then that Akiteru realizes her chest is pressing against his back. To make matters worse, Akiteru quickly realizes that something feels off, and Iroha confirms his suspicion. She admits that she isn't wearing underwear. She explains that she recently grew a little, making her undergarments too tight. Even her school uniform had become so snug that some of the buttons popped off, meaning that if she pulled away from him now, she'd end up exposed. Akiteru has a hard time believing her, but the slim chance she might be telling the truth keeps him from pushing her off. If she's lying, he'll just look like a fool. But if she's not, forcing her away could spell disaster, not only for his friendship with Ozuma, but also for their group's deal with his uncle's company. After all, if anyone sees them like this, people will assume he's cheating on Mashiro with Iroha. Deciding to minimize the damage, Akiteru quickly hooks his arms around Iroha's legs, shifting her into a piggyback position. Iroha panics as Akiteru taunts her, trying to get her to admit she was lying, but she stubbornly refuses. Akiteru bolts out of the school, taking a side route to avoid being seen. Iroha grows flustered from the sudden dash and blurts out that she surrenders, prompting Akiteru to finally stop. He doesn't let her down immediately, making her apologize for lying just to tease him. When he finally drops her, he scolds her for her behavior, only to realize she was partially telling the truth about not having underwear on. They end up walking home together, and Akiteru asks if she has any advice on befriending a difficult girl. Iroha pales, assuming he finally has a crush, but Akiteru quickly corrects her and explains the situation with Mashiro. He clarifies that his efforts are mainly for his own benefit, but Iroha insists that deep down he genuinely wants to be friends with Mashiro. With a grin, she tells him to leave it to her, and that she'll teach him how to win over Mashiro. The next day, Akiteru shows up at school wearing a dog collar and offers to carry Mashiro's bag. During lunch, he serves her a warm meal. After class, he even offers to give her a piggyback ride. All his antics only irritate Mashiro. She grabs his leash and drags him to the stairwell to demand an explanation. Thinking it's some sort of prank, she's annoyed when Akiteru admits that he also feels ridiculous, since it's the kind of scheme Iroha would talk him into. He admits he knew it probably wouldn't work, which only frustrates Mashiro more. She wonders aloud if he dislikes her that much. Before Akiteru can respond, Iroha appears and teases them for being lovey-dovey. Mashiro asks who she is, so Iroha cheerfully declares that she's the mastermind behind everything. As Mashiro watches their easy banter, she can't help but notice just how close the two seem. Suddenly, Mashiro announces that she's leaving and snaps at them to stop bothering her. Later, as Akitiru and Iroha arrive home, they're shocked to find Mashiro in their apartment complex. Mashiro accuses them of stalking her, but they quickly explain that they all happen to live in the same building. Iroha cheerfully adds that she's Akitiru's sister in spirit, since her brother is his best friend. Mashiro misinterprets and assumes they all live together, prompting Akitiru to clarify that everyone actually resides on the same floor. Sumire is right next to Ozuma, and Iroha has her own apartment. At the mention of Sumire, Mashiro suddenly lashes out, saying she hates that they all live so close before slamming her door shut. Akitiru approaches her door and confidently declares that he will meddle in her life. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss new episodes every week.